Hi guys, and welcome back to the bench again. This is the aforementioned second Battlezone PCB that I'm going to be looking at here. And I just took this out of the box, unwrapped it, and put it down on the bench. So we're going to look at it as it is. And the first thing I noticed is this is a really nice board. It's clean. And I like the fact that I see ceramic chips. I see some ceramic chips over here. These guys are ceramic. Those are nice. I don't like the fact that it's got these sockets. You know, it's got the typical Atari socket. It's missing a ROM, but I think first thing I'm going to do right off the bat is I'm going to put the ROMs in my reader and verify them out and make sure that they're even any good. So, and eventually I'm going to have to replace the sockets, I'm sure. You know, it's just par for the course with these guys. So let's get to that. Let me go ahead and put these in my reader, see what's good, what's not good, and go from there. Okay, I just got done dumping and verifying the ROMs against ROM ident, and one of these ROMs came up in MAME as a Battlezone ROM. The other ones didn't come up as anything. So, looks like we'll be burning a new set of ROMs for this guy, for this board set. So, yep, one good ROM out of 7. So, not going to run that way. Okay, I have programmed new ROMs put in the board. And I've got it all hooked up. I checked for shorts and everything like that. This LED is burnt out, which could be a telltale sign that the power supply spiked. Or it could have just burned out. You know, who knows. But we're getting nothing, just a dot in the screen. Just a dot in the center of the screen. And if we take our probe and put it on reset, you'll see that we are resetting. So we'll have to look into that. At least the reset circuit is working. And we'll have to look at that and go through the decoding. I do not have the use of my Fluke right now. I'm waiting on 6532 processors for it. And I'm not going to take another one of mine. The ones that I already have, I'm not going to take them apart just to rob a 6532 out of it. I'll wait. So we're just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and kind of go through it. And luckily, I have a Battlezone schematic taped to the wall. This thing is 15 sheets of paper. It's like 3 feet by 2 feet. So that I can actually see it. So I will use that to go through my the decoding right up in here, address decoding. So that'll be first, is to kind of check on that stuff. Alright guys, I'm getting back into this Battlezone board set. And I have me a schematic here handy of the microprocessor and the clock and the sync and the address decoding and the program memory and all that good stuff. So, because we're not getting any booting action going on, and this thing you can see this is the reset pin. If I can get on it, you can see it's resetting. this. So what I've kind of been checking out here is this guy right here, which is a 244. This guy right here is what I'm looking at. It's a 244. It's always enabled. It is the lower 8 bits of addressing buffer. And if I just kind of start at the beginning of it and go with pin 2. Pin 2 is the first input. And right here, this is a problem. This is a socket. This is a bad socket. I'm trying to mess with the CPU a little bit. But here, let's do this. Let's just kind of rock this thing in that socket a little bit and then get back on pin 2. And it's still doing the same thing. So I'm just trying to see if that did it. There we go. See, you mess with the socket a little bit and it straightens out. That's 2, and this is pin 18. This is the output. Okay. Now we go to pin 17. That's an input. And pin 3 is its output. And as you can see how this thing goes, it's going tri-stated. This should not be tri-stated at all. This thing isn't working right. See how that's kind of floating around like that and kind of this chip is always enabled and it should not be in a floating state at any point in time. That right there tells me that this guy's not working, and I'm going to replace this. And you know what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to replace these sockets. You've already seen you have to mess around with the chip to get it to work right. I just set it in this socket, so I'm just going to do some maintenance. I'm going to replace this guy, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I have went ahead, I replaced all of the sockets. I didn't mess with these, they're not used. But I replaced these sockets, all of these sockets, and this socket, and I replaced this guy. And if we look with the oscilloscope on pin 3, remember it was kind of floating and it was like acting like it was tri-stated. Here's pin 3 now. You can see there's no tri-state to it. I had my arm holding the reset button down again, but you can see it looks great now. And our reset pin is right here, which is always high, so we're no longer resetting. We're no longer resetting, and these are all of the ROM access pins. You can see they're all busy. Yeah, so you can see our ROMs are all being accessed. We're not resetting. This program is running, yet we still have just a dot on the screen. We have absolutely no outputs. So, and we can put this thing into test, and it still doesn't do anything. I know the program is running, but it's not doing nothing. So let's put it back into running. I'm gonna see if I can't coin it up and see if it'll play blind at all. No, it's not even playing blind, so it's not resetting, but it's not playing either. No, game won't start. So, okay. I'll just have to keep poking around. Okay, I went ahead and hooked my fluke pod up to it. I got a 6532, so I'm able to use my fluke pod now. And I went through and I did all the RAM checks and all the ROM checks, and everything worked out just fine. So what I did was I said, okay, well, I'll just try running the UUT. So I did. And we're getting, I got it in test, and I'm getting this. So if I take it out of test, you can see that thing is doing something. I don't exactly know what is going on. It looks like it just doesn't have a Y output. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. But it definitely looks like it's working at some point. I mean, somehow. The program's running, it's trying to do something, so that's actually a good sign. So I'm going to put the fluke up. I know that all of the access to the ROMs and the RAM is good. So that's eliminated. So let's go ahead and put the fluke up and hook the whole system back up and just poke around and see what we can find. Okay, I'm getting ready to go over, plug this board in, and after putting the fluke on it and verifying everything, I want to hook this thing up and see what we get. And right off the bat, I turned this thing around and looked at these, and take a look at these things. Cracked solder joints everywhere. Yep, so I got the desoldering gun out. I'm going to remove all the solder out of these, and then I'm going to resolder them. And then we'll put it together and see what we get. Okay, and now we are ready for resoldering. You can see I've removed the solder. And I'll show you guys something I just received in the mail. I bought a used Metcal SP200 soldering system. Metcal. Finally got one. And I love it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and resolder this and then we'll see what we got. Okay, we're hooked back up. I've got it turned on. And just getting the dot. Back in the back with my speaker. Now it's turned up pretty loud to where you'll be able to hear it if it's actually doing game sounds. But it's just kind of going making some random nonsense, quiet noises. I'm kind of, now that I know it's not resetting, I have my logic probe here, and you can probe reset. And it is not resetting. All of my ROMs are being accessed. I already know that the program is running. That's not a problem. I think what is going on here, well, what I want to check anyway, is I want to check and make sure that this board can communicate with this board. This guy right here. And what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and just kind of check my clocking signals. There's 3 megahertz, it's pulsing. And here's 6. And it's pulsing. That's a theta 2 clock. It's doing its thing. So that's good. Just curious. This guy's oscillating. And so that is all of my clocking signals on this guy. I thought there was another one. I guess not. That must be Tempest. So I know my clocks are good. My clocks are getting over here. But I want to make sure that data signals are getting over here through this guy. Can this board communicate with this board? So I'm going to analyze this guy right here. Okay, I am analyzing this guy right now. That is the 245 buffer that interfaces this board to this board. Data, the data bus. And I have a snapshot here of it, and you'll see it's extremely noisy down here on this side of the bus. That is the auxiliary board side of that's the auxiliary board side of this, and both of these are good. This one had been resoldered, and then I resoldered this one, so I know the connection is good. But it's just a bunch of junk on here, and you can see this is the enable line right here. Enable. That's the enable line, and when it's low, it's enabled. So right here, it should be. Whichever direction, this is the direction line. So it's trying to this should match. Once this is enabled, this should match this. Whichever direction it's going doesn't matter. You'll see this thing is kind of half-ass working. Here, it's enabled, and here it works good. You got C0 and 3E while it's enabled. It's working, but I don't like all of this. I just don't like the way this looks. And sometimes it doesn't work right. Like right here, when it's enabled right here, this should be FF all the way through here. I just don't like the way that looks. So I am going to replace this guy, and then we will look at it again. Let's replace it, and then we will reanalyze. and see what the signal looks like then. See what the data looks like on this line right here. See if it clears it up. So let's do that. Okay, you guys, I have replaced this and I am now analyzing the new one. And you can see it's looking exactly like the other one. Look at that. It's enabled. You got FF clearly on here, and it's just a bunch of nonsense. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a known good Battlezone auxiliary board on here, and then check that out and see how it looks. Let's do that. Alright, I have replaced the auxiliary board with a known good one from the previous repair I just did. Put it on, and if we take a look up here, when direction is 1, it goes from A bus to B bus. Okay, so here it goes enabled and it's 1, so it's going to be A bus to B bus. And if we slow this down a little bit, see those FFs? When there's FF on here, it's sending FF up to the B bus. And then as soon as we get the direction changes, and 00 goes down. You can see this looks so much better. You have C0. When this goes enable, you have C0 comes down, and then it changes to 50, and 50's down. You have FF. These are FF, so it's going to send it that way, and then the direction changes and it sends 00 down. And here we have 55 and C0, so this looks a lot cleaner. And when I change that to a known one, I get a bunch of junk, garbage kind of, but at least it's doing something. But I want to get the other auxiliary board to this point, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to replace all of the sockets on the other auxiliary board, and then I'm going to have to verify that the processor chips are good. So what I think I'll do is I'll pull all 4 of those and just test them one at a time in this. Well, it's not going to do me no good though, because I can't tell on the screen if it's any good or not. So I'm just going to replace all the sockets, get this thing looking right, and then go from there. And then we can move on. What I have here now is just a problem on this board, because this board's eliminated with this one. So I have a problem on this board. But first things first, let's get this fixed, and then we can move on to this guy and find out what's going on. Alright guys, I'm kind of back at it, and I'm got my schematic out right here, and I'm just going over this whole vector generation system part of the schematic here. I've already probed out all of this, and everything toggles, which is good. So I moved down to this area and I started checking out all of these signals with my logic probe, just making sure everything's toggling. And I got to this 109 here at N8. You can see pins 12 and 4 are the clocks, 12 megahertz. So if I pin 12 and 4. There's pin 12, and it's connected to pin 4 too. Where's our 12 megahertz clock signal? Now we come back over here and let's just probe the inputs on 14, 13, 2 and 3. 2 and 3, 14, 13. Here's 14, which is toggling. 13 is the stop signal, which doesn't seem to be toggling. And 2 and 3. There's 2 and 3 is that same stop signal. And that's going to be something to look into, why that is not toggling, because I would think that that stop signal should toggle. But what's more concerning here is my output bits. There's nothing going on. There's no toggling on the output bits on both sides. Here's a clear signal. And then we got our clock, we've got inputs. These should be doing something. And now it is a little bit. See, this one was just toggling, I thought. See? And this one's not doing anything. And this is what we got going, just the dot. But if I take this 109 here and kind of set it over top of this, look at that. See that? We may have a Y deflection problem. You know, we need to get this chip replaced right here. That 109 is not doing anything. It's no good. So let's go ahead, swap that, put a good one in there, and then see what we get. Okay, have replaced the 109 right here. And now we have Battlezone working. It's just collapsed. It's collapsed. It's collapsed in the Y circuit. So I think what I'm going to do right off the bat is whichever one of these op amps is in the Y circuit, I'm going to replace. A lot of times when you see collapse like this, it's an op amp. And they're a pretty high failure rate part too, these op amps are. So I'm going to go ahead and replace just the Y circuit. Okay, what I ended up having to do, I did replace both of the op amps. I figured if I'm replacing one, I'll replace both of them. But that didn't fix it. What turned out to be the problem was, let me turn this light on. What turned out to be the problem was this guy. It was an analog switch in the Y circuit. So I replaced that, and I've got it on here, and I've got it up here. Now, oops. I had my finger on the on some resistors down here that was making a little added capacitance that was messing it up. It looks pretty good though. I got it on both screens. If we go into, let's put it into test. And that's about as good as I think we're going to get it. Go ahead and, yeah, looks good to me. Nice. Okay, I saw a little graphic flakage. Saw some flaky graphics there. See that? And those are hopping around. I kind of think that's a math box problem. Well, this was the good math box. And I'm wondering if it's developing another issue already. Yeah, that looks like math box all the way. See how that's kind of flaking out in the back? See that? Hopping around. Interesting. What are you doing? Hey, Boo Boo. What are you doing? All right. Well, yeah, I'm going to have to figure that one out, but I kind of am suspecting one of these is going flaky on me. That's kind of what I'm suspecting here. One of the good 4-bit processors, I think, is going flaky. So, alrighty, well, that's enough for tonight, but we'll get back at it tomorrow. Alright guys, actually, I just decided to put it into test again, and I have a RAM that's gone bad. So I'll have to get with the manual and see what that means. The third beep is a high tone. So I had a RAM go bad just like that. So, and it wasn't bad before, it just went bad. So we'll figure it out. It's one of these guys. The first two that it tests are these two. And this thing will not boot if this is bad. If one of these is bad. Actually, it shouldn't even boot if one of these is bad, to be honest. Let's put it out of test. Yeah, see that? It won't even start now. And I mean, it was, there it is. Back into test. Yeah, it's a flaky RAM. It's not quite blown out yet. It's kind of weird because generally this, you saw it though. I took it out of test and it did not boot. And I hit reset and it booted. So it's just got a funky RAM. So I'll get on the manual. I'll get in the manual, see what the third high beep is, and it's one of these guys. And we'll replace that tomorrow. We'll see you then. Good morning, everybody. Remember last we left off, I put it into test and it came up with a bad RAM right here. The third beep is this guy right here. And then the fourth beep was this guy. I jumped a RAM over this and it passed the third beep and failed on the fourth beep. So I jumped one here and I jumped another one on here and then it passed. So I replaced both of these guys. And now I am running it. And I'm going to let it warm up because I kept the two RAMs that I pulled. I did not cut them out of the board. I just actually pulled them. Because, and I jumped around, you know, made sure I didn't overheat those RAM chips right here, because I'm not convinced that this is bad RAM. Being that it was, they're going in line. I think the test goes here, 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 here. You know, I think it jumps like that. And I want to let this thing heat up for a little bit, put it back into test, and see if the RAMs start failing again. Because either it's just a coincidence and those two RAMs were bad, or the hardware access to the RAM might be flaky. So I'm going to let it warm up and then put it into test a few times, just play with test and kind of eliminate the hardware as a problem. And just if it's just RAM, fine, it's just RAM. But I'm not convinced as of yet. And then once I'm convinced that this board is good, then we'll move on to the other auxiliary board. Remember, this is the auxiliary board from the other Battlezone set that I've already replaced all the sockets and everything, and it's working fine. So yeah, that's going to have to be done on the other auxiliary board. Replace all the sockets. I got to verify all of his chips, and I'll just do that by plugging them into this board. Why not? So, okay. Okay, so it's been running for about a half hour now. I've played a few games. I determined that by swapping, all of his bit slice chips are okay, but his pokey was no good. It was just missing some sounds. It was missing a lot of the beeping sounds, and the saucer and the missile that comes at you. It was missing all those sounds, and it was the pokey. And it just turns out that those two RAM chips were bad, were flaky, you know. So I can put it into test, and it won't fail, you know. It's fine. So yeah. So this board is good to go. I'll start working on the other one. Like I said, I swapped in all of his 4-bit processor chips, and they're all good. The pokey was not good. But, and it's funny, it didn't show in the test, it did not say anything about the pokey being bad. But it was clearly missing sounds. And I put the other pokey back in, and it's fine. So it's just a bad pokey chip. So we're almost there. I still have to recondition this guy right here. All those big 40 pin sockets are going to get replaced, because this thing just will not be reliable with those sockets. It just won't. It'd be too flaky. So those are going to get replaced, and then that should be it. Then we'll go into our run test and let it sit and run for a while, a few hours. And we're closing in on the end of this one, guys. All right, we'll be back. Okay, got all of the 40 pin sockets removed, nice and good. On the back side, looking great. Now I got the new Metcal soldering system heating up, and we'll go through and put new sockets in here. Okay, getting ready to solder the new 40 pinners in. So we'll get to that really quick. I'll take you along with me on that for a little bit. Because I'm filming, I'm not using my magnifying glass to solder, which I usually do. I'm just wearing glasses, so I just can't see what I'm doing quite as good. Come on. Next. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish up the last couple, and then we'll be ready to try it out. And there you have it, folks. All freshly soldered. I will clean that up, and I'll absolutely clean this up. This was done previously by somebody else. I mean, the solder looks good, but they did not clean up after themselves. But the soldering looks fine. I'll just clean it up. And new sockets. So let's go ahead and populate this, put it back on the bench. Here's all the old sockets. So yeah, let's put this thing back together and see if it works. Okay, we've got it all put back together, and this is something I'm going to have to address. I'll have to put a new LED in this guy. As you can see, it's not lit. I don't know, details. But I got it all together, and you can see it's kind of doing a little bit of flaking out. Not a little bit, it is flaky. So let's put her into test. Okay. All right, we got an L. And that is basically in the arithmetic of the math box is just not right. And let's see, I'm going to fidget around with these ROMs right here, and let's see what happens. Okay. Oop, see that? Change to H. Oop, now to T. Oop. Flaky. Flaky. I'm going to replace all of these sockets. Put some nice dual wipe sockets in there. It's just these Atari sockets are so problematic. These 40-year-old sockets like this, the little tension sockets that have little contacts that do this, you'll have nothing but problems with those. They have to be replaced. These sockets, they have little tension contacts inside there. And they just don't cut it. So I'm going to replace all these guys. And the LED. Okay, got all of these guys removed. You can see. And I got the LED removed, and I will be putting in the new one right there. So I'll get to that. Here's the old sockets. Here's the new sockets. So we'll get to putting those in. Okay, got all of the proms back in the board, all new sockets from here and here all the way down, all new, hooked back up, and you can see we are solid. No flakage. Yep, so I will go ahead and, yeah, LED. Got a new LED, new sockets. I got one of my ball blazer pull pokies in it. And we're going to test the sounds and make sure everything's working on this board. And actually, what we can do right now is go ahead and set up, and we will, play a game, make sure all the sounds are right and everything. So let's do that. Okie dokie, let's go ahead and insert a coin. Try not to get in the way too much here. Insert coin. Let's see if it. Get the Atari joystick ready. Yeah, it says press start. Coin is in. Here we go. Okay. No sound at all. No sound at all. The gameplay is good. This is something global where there's absolutely zero sounds at all. That's got to be an op amp. There's one. There's one or two LM324s on this board. So, and you know what we can do is I will grab one. This is an easy one to see. Okay, I got an LM324 here. I'm going to start the game, and then I will just jump it wherever it is. I'm not sure where the LM324 is on the board. Here it is. Sorry if I'm in the way. There it is. It is that guy right there. You see? So I got to replace this guy. So let me do that. Okay, got a new op amp in the board right here. We will set up, play a game, and make sure all of our sounds are good. Okay, we're all set up. Let me get my Atari 2600 joystick. And we'll turn it on. And first we'll plug it in. And then we'll turn it on. Okay. Wait for it to come up. And there it is. let's go ahead and coin this guy up. And start. And we have our sounds. Where you at, Salsa? There he is. Oh boy, right on my tail. And we have another successful Battlezone repair. All right. Well, let's try a recap, shall we? What exactly did we do here? Well, it's got all new EEPROMs, new sockets under the EEPROMs, new CPU socket. I believe the 109 was bad over here. 2 RAMs. I replaced both of the TL082 op amps and a analog switch. Oh, I replaced this guy, the 245 that interfaces from this board to this board, but I don't think that was bad, but hey, it's a new part. That's all good. Okay, and this board, all new sockets underneath the 40 pinners. The pokey was no good. All new sockets underneath these guys. New LED. New op amp. Reflowed the pins on this guy. Remember, they were all cracked up. And I believe that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. Got ourselves another perfectly working Battlezone. All right, everyone. Well, hey, as usual, thank you for watching and supporting the channel. I do appreciate it. And if you could, go ahead and leave me a comment. Like the video if you liked it. And if you didn't, well, that's fine too. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you guys on the next one.